Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hat Trick Podcast. We're going to dub this Season 2, Episode number 1, because we are back, and we are live, and we are ready to go. I'm here, as always, with Nick DiCostanzo. Nick Falato could not be with us here today. He is battling an illness. We hope that he feels better soon. But Nick, how's it going? How's the break?
Everything's great. Break's good. Happy and very excited to get started here in 2018. Got a lot of news to talk about, and
A lot of stuff we missed.
yeah, a lot of stuff we missed, and unfortunately we couldn't broadcast it out to our viewers and our audience. But hey, we're back live now, and let's get right to it.
Yeah, let's talk about the thing that happened over the weekend. There's this little known thing called the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
The Super Bowl was this weekend.
biggest game in sports history,
Yes.
and it did not disappoint, in my opinion.
The Eagles and the Patriots, probably the most disgusting Super Bowl we'll see for a while because nobody likes either of those
Well,
teams.
from where we are in location to of northern New Jersey, New York area, yes, I think a lot of people would agree with you. Except there's a good amount of Philly fans here from maybe South Jersey, Southern Jersey.
Yeah, there's a good amount. I'd say Philly definitely on this campus is represented very well.
Yeah, especially more than New England, that's for sure.
Oh, a lot more than New
There's
England.
a
that's
handful
for
of New England fans. He's a St. Louis Blues fan as we speak.
St.
That's
Louis
weird.
Blues, nice to see. Wow, we will talk about that probably. St. Louis Blues. I don't know if they've done anything, but nonetheless, the Super Bowl happened. Tom Brady is now 5-3 in Super Bowls. He's been to 8. Is he still the greatest of all time?
I think so. I mean, listen. This man just won MVP at 40 years old. I don't think this man is showing signs of slowing down by any means. Look, you could all the injuries that this man has faced through his team, through everything else, and he still was able to battle back and perform the way he does. 5-3 in Super Bowls, it's not just about the record; it's about how many times he's been there. And just because he's lost at 41 years old now to an 11-2 Philadelphia Eagles team, or something along those lines.
They were 12-4, I believe.
12-4, yeah, something like that. I don't think that would change anything. I mean, again, this man still won MVP at an age
They
that
were 13-3.
people you normally retire. So I don't think this loss suggests anything else. He does have 2 more years left on his contract. It'll be interesting to see what the Patriots do. But how about 2 of those 3 losses coming from your team and Eli Manning of the New England Giants, right? The New York Giants. He's not.
He can't beat the NFC East.
He can't.
What's that about?
He really can't. I don't know what it is. I mean, hey, I think the Eagles just came to play.
They did. They had a chip on their shoulder that entire postseason. They said, "You made us the underdogs at home in the divisional game, in the conference championship, and now we're underdogs in the Super Bowl.
Right.
We're about to prove you all the way wrong." And they did. They went out there and they put up 44 points, 45 points.
42, I thought. But
42 points on the New England Patriots,
Right.
who the storyline was, yes, they have Tom Brady, but this defense has finally played to their potential. They were averaging like 14 points allowed a game in the second half of the season. Right. They were on fire. And Nick Foles just came into Minneapolis and just threw the ball absolutely incredibly. He had 1 interception in the game. Not his fault.
Nobody's fault really.
It was just one of those football plays where the ball got intercepted.
Right.
It was tipped up. Things happen.
If he would have came down with that catch, it would have been a very impressive catch.
It would have, yes. But personally, about the Tom Brady situation, I think this puts a very big damper on his legacy. And I'm going to say that because he just lost to a backup quarterback who only started playing this year in week, 15?
Yeah.
Week 14, 15? Granted, Nick Foles in the past, in 2013, he had that incredible season where he threw 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions or something ridiculous like that.
Right.
And he's thrown for 7 touchdowns in a game. But that was under a completely different head coach, a completely different team. Because if you remember Chip Kelly went in there and blew that team up. Right. He traded everything. He said, I want to make this roster from scratch. I want my players that I want here. And they got rid of him. If you would have told me that 2 years removed from Chip Kelly, the Eagles would win the Super Bowl, I'd say you were a lunatic.
Right.
But that's what they did. And Nick Foles, all credit to him, the Super Bowl MVP. He'll go somewhere next year and make an impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if Philly's smart, they'll trade him.
Right. Definitely deservingly so. Again, look at this. This team was ruled out. I mean, a lot of people said at the beginning of the season, the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, and even the end of the season, they're not for real. There's no way they're for real. And then they came back.
That was me.
It was mentioned on the show.
Was wrong.
Sure it was. And I can't say that a lot of people disagreed with you. So that's definitely an underdog team. And Nick Foles stepped up, and he like you said, I agree with you that he may have upped his trade value. But now if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, is it so outlandish to hold on to Nick Foles and trade perhaps Carson Wentz, maybe get a little more for him?
I thought about that idea that the Eagles could possibly trade Wentz. But you also have to remember that Nick Foles is 29 years old. He's going to be 30. 30 is about that age where if you're a quarterback, really anywhere in the NFL, 30 is that age where you're past your prime. You're going to start to slow down. Your legs aren't the same as they used to be. Your arm's definitely not going to be the same. And Nick Foles isn't built like Tom Brady to where I can see him being good until he's 40. Nick Foles maybe has 2, 3, 4 years left in him. The Eagles drafted Wentz at number 2 for the reason that he would be their franchise quarterback moving on. I don't think they should move him. I don't think they will move him. I think Nick Foles, they're going to want a lot for him. They're going to want a lot for Nick Foles because he just won the Super Bowl MVP. So if a team is willing to give up what the Eagles want, then Nick Foles might move. But he could be back in Philadelphia as the backup next year. You never know. But back on the game, that was a great game, a very good game. Yeah. Credit to Philadelphia's defense. They stepped up in the fourth quarter and did not let Tom Brady do Tom Brady things. That final drive, not the final drive, the next to last drive when they forced the fumble, that was the greatest moment in Philadelphia sports probably for Philadelphia fans because that's the reason they won. If they didn't force that turnover, I could see Tom Brady easily marching his way down the field.
Yeah, still have plenty of time.
Yeah, he had all the time in the world.
Yeah, man.
All right, so enough on the Super Bowl. Football season is officially over.
Thank God.
It's time
no
to...
offense, but I mean, damn.
Well, yeah, no offense. It's time to think about the draft. Think about what your team needs. But we're not going to do that today because Nick Falato is actually our draft expert. Yeah, he really is. Yeah, and but we don't have him.
So.
And we are strapped for time.
We just wanted to get our feet wet, keep everybody up to date on what is going on, and we'll come back, a little stronger once we have all three pieces to make us a hat trick.
Let's move on to the NHL and the New York Rangers on their social media today released a statement,
a big
statement from Glenn Sather and Jeff Gorton. They both addressed the fans. And I just want to read a little bit of what they wrote. They said, as you know, since the 2005-2006 season, we have been a highly competitive team. We've played 129 playoff games, won the President's Trophy, reached the conference finals 3 times, as well as the Stanley Cup final. While we're proud of all those accomplishments, we didn't reach our ultimate goal of bringing the Stanley Cup back to New York. That is an incredible resume. That is an incredible resume. 129 playoff games since 2005.
I agree. It really is. It's something else. But, I mean, there's just one thing that would make it that much better, and it's, it's obvious. But, I mean, it's the cup clinching game, goal, whatever you want, is not on there, and it's a big question mark.
Now, this open letter to the fans goes on to say, so as we do every season, we have been continuously evaluating our team, looking for areas that can be improved to enhance our chances of winning. We began the process of reshaping our team this past summer when we traded for assets that we believe will help us in the years to come. As we approach the trade deadline later this month and into the summer, we will be focused on adding young, competitive players that combine speed, skill, and character. This means we may lose some familiar faces, guys we all care about and respect. While this is part of the game, it's never easy. Our promise to you is that our plans will be guided by our singular commitment, ensuring we are building a foundation for our next Stanley Cup contender. This is long overdue, I believe. This roster needed to be overhauled 2, maybe 3 years ago. Granted, they made it to the Cup 3 years ago, right? But this team, right now, where they are, and even last year, was never in the position to contend for the Cup. Yes, teams get hot when they make the playoffs, but the Rangers just aren't that team. They've never been that team.
Never.
They finally looked at this team and said, we have a lot of youth. We have some old veterans that are old, slow, and frankly, we don't need them anymore. Let's send them to somewhere else, have them go compete, get some youth back, get some draft picks in return, some players that are young, like they said, young, skilled guys with speed, and see if we can make this rebuild happen. I am a big fan of this. I'm scared. I'm very scared. I think it's time to try and get some youth into this organization, because when was the last time Hartford was good?
The AHL team?
Yeah.
Oh, I
exactly. We haven't had any youth in our system in so long, because for the longest time, for the past 6-7 years, we've been trading all of our picks to try and get these guys to put us over the edge to go compete and go win a Stanley Cup. It hasn't happened. We're out of draft picks to sell off. We don't have that many left except for what we own at the beginning of the year. It's time to acquire draft picks and acquire youth and start trying to rebuild this team. It should honestly take no more than 3 years. And the reason I say 3 years is because we went over the youth that we have right now. We have guys like Kreider, guys like JT Miller, guys like VZ, all young. Zibanejad, Shea, D'Angelo. I'll put D'Angelo in there because we traded for him.
Yep.
Youth defenseman that we think is going to be big.
Yep.
So we have the youth. And if this rebuild takes more than 3 years, then that means all of that youth that we had did not pan out. And they all fell flat. And now we're back at square one because Lundqvist is gone and we don't have a goalie after him. Unless this guy from Russia, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not
Shishorkin,
Yeah, Igor Shishorkin. Unless he is the real deal, which, I don't want to say anything, but we're going to watch him during the Olympics, obviously, and make that decision ourselves.
Right.
But what do you think?
Well, and keep in mind though, for our viewers out there, when we say 3 years, I mean, I don't know if you do mean this in terms of that, but I don't expect a Stanley Cup in 3 years. I just expect to be competing again within the next 3 years or so. If the Stanley Cup comes, I'm expecting a playoff run. I'm expecting maybe a Stanley Cup run could happen, or at least get there, at least show signs that this team, this organization as a whole, is not entirely dead yet. Time will come, and I agree with you, because if this doesn't pan out within the given time, then everything we've worked for and everything that this team has done in the past is a complete, utter fail, for lack of any other better word out there.
Right.
And what do you do? I hate to use this example. It's a different sport, I know, but like the Chicago Cubs haven't won a World Series championship other than the one in 2016 in the last 108 years. That's just a very scary thought for any other organization. Imagine all the rebuilds and draft picks they went through of all guys.
And the runs that they made.
Right. And even the runs that they've made, even the World Series, the playoffs that they've met. all for absolutely nothing. I mean, we're talking lifetime of not competing at all, and it's a scary thought because I think the Rangers have the same potential to do that if none of this pans out. Lundqvist gone is one of the scariest thoughts I've ever had about this team, is because
that's all we know.
He always gave us a chance, whether it was a playoff game or a regular season game, to win the game. He always gave us that comfortable feeling.
He's the game changer.
He always gave us that backbone support, and we had that feeling that, all right, we always had a chance to win when this guy was in goal. It's hard to say with a fresh face, because when Lundqvist came into the league in 2005, no one thought he was going to be as good as he was.
No, he was a seventh-round draft pick.
And we're lucky that he panned out the way he was. But not everybody does
we
that.
have a great goalie coach.
Right, Benoit Allaire deserves all the credit in the world. I agree with that. But is he going to stay forever? I mean,
No,
is Shishorkin going to turn into the next Henrik Lundqvist?
Does Shishorkin see Benoit Allaire in the Rangers?
I would like to think so.
I would hope so.
I'm hoping Shishorkin is the next Rangers goaltender. I don't know who else would be.
Out. We're going to have to either draft somebody or trade for somebody.
Yeah, he is the next drafted goalie, so realistically it is it's his time next to go. But Henrik Lundqvist even came out and said that he wants to ride and die with this team, which I give him all the credit in the world. I mean, we've showed nothing to respect for him, and he gave us nothing but all of his blood, his sweat, his tears, his grit, and just everything. Right. His competitive nature just has been a standout superstar and a stand-up guy his whole entire career.
Right. It's sad if he never gets a cup.
And it's very unfortunate. I don't think he will. But when's the window going down? 35 years old. I said this before. I thought this year was the last year of the window. I did too. But I mean,
look at
what he's doing.
Right. Look at what that's what I'm going to go off of is look at what he's doing now. He doesn't have to do that for 3 more years. He can fall off a little bit. And if we do this rebuild right and get a defense around him again, he can be okay. He can be good, just decent. And we can still compete. Because if that defense gets overhauled and rebuilt the correct way with guys that will suppress shots, and we won't get outshot every single game, there's a chance that this team can make a run in the near future. I'm not saying it's this year or next year. I'm counting next year out, too. I don't think we make a run for the playoffs next year. Depending on what we do at the deadline and, obviously, how Lundqvist plays. Live and die by Lundqvist. Yes. But 2 years from now, I'm expecting a playoff run. I'm expecting this team to have something that I can look to and say, he's a superstar. We finally have somebody. Give us somebody willing to protect on the ice. Right. You know, people run into Lundqvist and nobody protects him, obviously, because we have nobody that will. But we also need a forward or a defenseman that's a star that people want to protect at the same time. There's so much wrong with the organization right now.
It's so sad because really the theme of this man's career is that he's stood on his head game in, game out and never had the support behind him or, literally in front of him, for terms. But he never had that support. He never had the defensive structure. He never had offensive help. And, Lundqvist can't go out there and score goals. But
if he could, I bet he'd lead our team in goals.
I agree with that. And, he could do all he can to stop goals, and he's done a damn good job of that throughout his career. And even now, we thought, his time was winding down after last season, and then he comes back with another Vezina-type caliber season at least for the Rangers. I don't think he's going to get recognized as a Vezina finalist, which he probably shouldn't, but I mean, at least very well close enough too. At 35, 36, whatever he is, and now But then you look at other guys that shined when they were older. Dwayne Rolson didn't retire from the NHL till he was 41. Does Henrik Lundqvist have another 5, 6, 7 years in him?
I see him with 3 in him. I see him playing.
I see him with 3 solid more years, maybe even 2 solid years, like real good years.
What
and with
could
that
happen,
support in this rebuild, if it happens, then anything's possible.
right? And in this rebuild, depending on how long it takes, obviously, and depending on Shishorkin's play, who his KHL contract expires next year, I believe. So then he'll be eligible to be in our system, whether it's AHL, the OHL affiliate, or the NHL team. But if he turns out to be a very good goaltender, NHL caliber and NHL ready, I can see him later in Lundqvist's career splitting time with Lundqvist.
Yep.
Maybe Lundqvist even becomes the backup. If 4 or 5 years from now, if he's still playing.
Right.
I'm not saying 2 years from now he's going to be a backup.
Yeah, of course.
But that is also a thought because he can still compete. He'll be the smartest goalie in the league because of everything he's seen.
Right.
Once you get up there in age, there's nothing you haven't seen.
Right.
You know what teams are going to be thinking on the rush. You know what they're going to try and attempt on the rush.
Right.
You can kind of predict it.
Right.
But it wouldn't surprise me to see Shishorkin splitting time with Lundqvist in the future.
Well, I would like it if they could be on the same team at some point in this man's, when one's seeming never-ending career and one's career just starting in Shishorkin. I would like they have to meet at some point, and I'm not talking about just training camp and preseason. I'm talking about in the NHL. These two need to be 1 and 2 together. Similar to what Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre did with the Green Bay Packers. Let the man learn from a veteran goaltender, one that's got a Vezina trophy already and a Stanley Cup appearance. Win yet to be determined, but let him pick the mind. Let him see how he operates, and let him learn from that type of player with this goaltending coach, and then that's what turns him into a superstar. And then once you put all that together, then you can
rebuild the defense.
Yeah,
then you can rebuild the forward core.
We have the goaltending.
We can get the youth now. And then build it when they're NHL ready in 2 years.
Right. I'm very excited because we already have youth. We're we're gonna have to replace guys like Philip Hedl and Elias Anderson. Once they're there, it's almost inevitable that they will be a New York Ranger in the very near future.
Next year, or I can see them playing 5 games at the end of the year.
Maybe, because, and if not, maybe at the end of that season then.
If they played less than 10 NHL games, both of them, this year, then their entry-level contract does not begin. They get another year.
Right.
So I can see them both coming for the last 5 games of the season, the last 3 games of the season, just to get that experience, then go back to the AHL and develop again.
Right, I agree with that. And then once they do that, they will have to get replaced from the AHL standpoint.
Right.
Because that's where... and just it's like a snowball effect. Because once he comes up, the next guy's got to
gets
step
up.
in. And then
I see this as a very good opportunity for the Rangers to rebuild their youth. This is probably the best position that they've been in to rebuild in a while because Nash has been upping his trade value like crazy.
Love him.
Grabner is a very valuable player that people sleep on.
Yes,
but teams don't. Teams know his worth.
Right.
People that evaluate players like that know he's worth a lot.
Right.
Who else can go? Zuccarello's name is out there. As much as I don't want him to go, he's my favorite Ranger. As much as I don't want him to go, he's very valuable too. He'll stick up for anybody.
He will.
He's all 5'0", but he'll stick up for anybody.
Right. Sure will.
Who else can go? McDonough can go.
I'm hearing Holden might be able to go.
Holden's available. Holden's contract also expires, which is...
That's
if
perfect.
he goes or not, good, he's gone.
Right.
I don't think he comes back.
Right.
Especially if we get a new coach.
See, now here's the thing that I'm thinking of too is the more people that we get rid of, the more people we get in return.
Yes.
So I guess we look
a pick
at
and a prospect. That's like the going price usually.
Yeah, it sure
so
is.
So that's 2 that you turn one player into 2 possible NHL ready players.
Right. So which I agree with, which is fine. But I also don't want anybody. I don't want the Rangers to undervalue any player that they have. Just because they're selling doesn't mean they should sell for anybody. I mean,
Right.
we need to have a standard too that we need to get these players back in order to rebuild properly.
Right.
You know, I don't want Rick Nash to walk for what, a 4th and a 5th round pick. That's not going to do too much.
That wouldn't do anything.
You know, we need to hold their value to their truth. Grabner should get a nice piece for him, and if McDonough goes, he as well. Sure, he's having a bad season,
But he's a captain.
This is all right. He's a captain, first of all. And second of all, this is the first bad season I think I have ever seen out of Ryan McDonough as a New York Ranger. So you can't underestimate their value and what they could do for other teams.
Right.
And I'm just hoping, because I know it's happened in the future, Rangers have gotten nothing for selling decent
Look
names.
at the Cam Talbot trade.
Exactly.
We
That's
got
the first
nothing.
one I was thinking of.
We
It's
got
the first
nothing
one.
for Talbot.
Absolutely nothing. And then, you know, we get rid of, sure, Rick Nash isn't a Steven Stamkos like he was when he was in Columbus, but he's
a great player
still valuable. He's still a teammate at heart. He's still a guy that knows how to play the game and will definitely push a team over the edge that is trying to make a Stanley Cup run. I can guarantee you that.
He will. Don't rule out this. This is one of the last points I'm going to make because I want to talk about one other thing about the Rangers.
Right.
Don't rule out them trading Nash, trading Grabner, and then signing them back in the offseason.
Always a possibility.
Always a possibility. We could Chapman them. I know you probably don't like hearing that because the Yankees signed Chapman away to the Cubs. He goes, wins a World Series, and then he's back in New York the next year.
Right. Well,
Nash can go, win a cup, come back the next year.
Right.
Grabner, same thing. The only people that can't do that, obviously, are Zuccarello and McDonough. They would have to wait another year if they wanted to re-sign.
I think even more than that, actually, because I remember
No, McDonough's is next year it ends,
yeah.
and Zuccarello's is either next or the two.
I think
it was a 4-year deal when we signed him. I remember Zuccarello because I waited to get his jersey.
Was it 4 or 6?
It was 4 because I waited and I was like, "What's the contract terms?"
Then it's 2 because
2, so it's this year,
yeah.
and then next year is his last year.
Right. On my time hop this morning, I checked. I was saying how I wouldn't mind getting rid of Zuccarello, and this was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And then the deal must have happened. Again, that was 2 years ago because it happened at the end of the season. And again, I was open to trading Zuccarello then to get prospects and picks to replace him then. But, I mean, obviously we held on to him, and now, you know, we got him not so much for the long haul. But, you know, I don't know where even these guys fit and what kind of system they fit in. Because I'll tell you what, anybody that we have is not a top line guy on any other team. I feel like I don't see.
No, but I think that we have people that can be in the top 6.
Yes,
Nash is easily a top 6 player.
And so is
Grabner,
Zuccarello.
depending on where he goes, depending on where Grabner goes, can be a top 6 player. I think,
and a solid third line player,
definitely
if
a
not
solid
top
third
6.
line and solid on the penalty kill.
Right.
All right. So this is what I want. The last thing that I want to talk about with the Rangers in the offseason, we signed Brendan Smith to a 4-year, $17.4 million contract. Brendan Smith, as of today, is on waivers.
So sad.
How does
It was the first move.
How does that makes me feel just I don't know how to feel about that, honestly, because he looked incredible in the playoffs when he was paired with Smith. It looked like we stole
Shea.
When he was paired with Shea, thank you. It looked like we stole him from the Red Wings.
Yep.
And now he's on waivers.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he gets picked up?
I think he should.
He should.
I mean, I think it's a blessing if he doesn't, because then that means he's still in our AHL affiliate team.
Here's his stats.
So,
He's played 44 games for us this year. He has a goal and 7 assists for 8 points, and he's a +2. That plus minus, it's in the positive.
It is. It's in the positive, and I don't look at Brendan Smith as a points guy. I mean,
I don't either.
8 points is it is low for a defenseman.
It really
is
low, definitely, especially more than halfway through the year.
True. Now, keep in mind the Rangers' lack of ability to score goals. First of all, he's not one to generate offense. He's more of I wouldn't say a shutdown defenseman, but he'll be in the pocket of a top guy on the other team, which I love, and which is what he did in the playoffs against the Ottawa Senators and against who did we play in the first round? The Montreal Canadiens. So he was
a shutdown
great.
guy.
He
did
sure
great.
was. So I think this is a steal if anybody would pick up this guy on waivers, and I think it's great if it's a. I don't want to say it's a win-win because it's really not. If we lose him, I also don't think he should be the defenseman that should be on waivers right now.
It should have been Stahl.
It
should have been Holden or Stahl,
and it should have been Holden for sure.
But Brendan
even
Smith has not
Kampfer,
had a very good.
He didn't.
Good season. Yeah, even Kampfer, which is the most annoying thing because Alain Vigneault thinks Steven Kampfer is apparently an NHL defenseman.
And Nick Holden too. Oh my
and
God,
a first pair defenseman.
First pair.
So we put Brendan Smith on waivers, but the man that we called up from Hartford is Neil Pionk. He was on, if you remember correctly, he was on the preseason roster.
He was.
He scored a beautiful overtime goal.
He sure did. He wasn't bad.
He was not terrible. Correctly. He's undersized. That's the only problem with him is he's very undersized.
Yep.
But he could now finally develop, get some NHL experience, possibly be an NHLer next year. And if Smith goes, he replaces Smith. Plus, we have other guys like Graves in the AHL who's got just a cannon of a shot.
Yep.
Barry Gozlov, he's a fringe guy. He might be a third pairing defenseman. He might just stay in the AHL his whole career. But we have young guys that can come up, can produce a little bit. We don't have a defenseman right now in the system that is going to come up and put up 45 points for us, have a plus 12 rating. We have nobody like that right now.
Right.
So good on them for trying to start the rebuild. Good on them. That's what I'll say. But it's overdue.
It is overdue.
And the Vegas Golden Knights are in first place. Still. Which is crazy.
Well, according to the power rankings, the best team in the league right now
is Boston.
The Boston Bruins, and the Rangers definitely saw
we did see
in
that.
full effect. All 6 goals scored against them. Of course, the highlight reel goal by the fourth line player to cap off our season.
Yeah. That pretty much ended our season, that game.
It really is a shame, but, I mean, sports are a business. And
it's a business, yep. And you got to understand, everything takes time. You can't compete every single year.
No.
Even the Red Wings missed the playoffs after, 25 seasons?
Yeah, right.
Even the Red Wings
25 years straight.
Yep. So everybody has to miss the playoffs. Everybody's got to build and rebuild. It just peaks and valleys. That's all it is. Teams will draft very well for 3 or 4 years, have a very good competitive team. Then those guys get old. They didn't really focus on their youth that much, and now they have to rebuild. Right. It's an endless cycle.
I just don't want them to just completely shut off the rest of the season. Yeah, it's really looking slim if us making the playoffs. I don't really expect,
which is
to make
crazy
because
we're 3 points out.
That's what I'm saying. But we're only 3 points out of a playoff spot. I mean, we still can play for something. And if we let's say we turn Grabner, Nash, Zuccarello, and Holden into something at the deadline, and let's say we just start winning games after that. I mean,
anything can happen.
We can't. I just don't want
new
to
coach.
I just don't want to just not play for anything and tank the whole season.
No, we got to tank for
Darlene.
For Darlene,
defenseman. I mean,
it's a need.
It is a need, but I just don't want to just give up. We're a little more than halfway through. We can't just give up 3 points back.
Right. All right. Before we go on to what happened in the NBA before the deadline today, number one guy you want to see moved, and number one guy you don't want to see moved.
Well, I think it's pretty evident that Rick Nash is going to get moved. So I mean, I'll say him.
Yeah.
And I will say Rick Nash also I want to see him succeed. Very similar situation to kind of what the Mets did with Curtis Granderson and Jay Bruce.
Send them to a contender.
I want to send them to a contender. Let them win. Let them
I think Nashville works perfectly for.
Let them help the team. I like Nashville for Nash. I also like Calgary Flames for Nash or Zuccarello. I could see Zuccarello fitting in Calgary too.
Yeah,
and we could get some pieces from Calgary. They got
have
some
young pieces.
They got some nice youth.
Nashville has nice young pieces.
I like that. I like that a lot, and they're going to want to compete. Those are two.
They're not
teams.
necessarily going to have high draft picks.
No, maybe not.
But they have young talent
Right.
in the AHL that can become something.
And those are also two teams that are going to be competing in the playoffs. I mean,
right?
They're
going to make runs. They're not going to be in the talk for the lottery.
Nashville is already penciled in, and Calgary's right there with them. In
Calgary
the
at one point was the best team in the league. I feel like.
Yeah, they were. They sure were. They were definitely the hottest. No pun intended. They caught fire, but I think Nash is evident to go. So I wish him the best of luck if he goes. When he goes. Too. One guy I definitely don't want to get see moved. I know he's having a rough season right now, or at least at this point in the season. But Brady Shea cannot go anywhere.
You read my
Brady
mind.
Shea should not be going anywhere, and I think it would be a very bad call.
Blasphemy
if they even hear offers on this man.
No.
He was the number one pick for us, or the first round.
I think he was our last first round pick.
Yeah, the 20. Yeah,
it was Miller and then him, and then that was it. We traded the rest of our first round draft picks. So that's who you're going with. You're going with Nash needs to go and Shea needs to stay.
And don't quote me on this, but if they listen to deals on Lundqvist too, as long as he goes to a contender, it's all I care about.
Doesn't he have he'd have to waive his no trade clause?
Yes, he would, and
I don't think he is. So we're just gonna say that he's staying. But I'm gonna go with two different people, just because I don't want to say the same things. I'm gonna say one person that needs to be moved, and I've been on this since I think November is when I first started thinking about it. McDonough needs to be moved because he's not a captain. He's not. You see it on the ice. He stands up for nobody. He says, "Oh, we just got to play better."
Yeah.
He stands up for nobody. He doesn't work. Something about him just doesn't say captain to me.
I agree, and I think it was.
And he's extremely underachieving this year.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to rebuild, he's one of the pieces that we have right now that has the most value. We can get a lot in return for Ryan McDonough. He will be anywhere he goes, he's a top 4 defenseman.
Yes.
He's not going to be on the third pair. He could be on anybody's first pair, I believe.
Yeah.
So we can get a lot for him. I think he needs to go. And I think the one guy that I'm going to say that needs to stay, I'm going to take one of the young guys. I'm going to say Vinny Lettieri needs to not be talked about in trades.
We didn't really mention him today. I agree with that.
I'm a big fan of Lettieri. He's
too.
just missing. He's got a cannon of a shot.
And I wish a lot of more people had his shoot first mentality.
Yeah.
Because then I think our problems would be solved, kind of, in at least goal scoring issues.
Yeah, of course he is absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, he knows what he's doing, Lettieri, when he's on the ice. Another guy we didn't mention that I'm sure you will agree with me on, that cannot get moved, don't even listen to an offer, is Pavel Buchnevich.
Yeah, I kind of assumed that he wasn't going to be. There was speculation at the beginning of the year, remember?
You never know.
There was team. Yeah, you don't.
It's really dull. I mean, look what happened in basketball today. I don't think anybody is safe other than the people that we mentioned.
Right.
And one last thought is, I really thought that McDonough was a top guy when he didn't even have any letter. When a few years ago, before they made him a captain with St. Louis, before he came and everything, he was a guy that he was noticeable on the ice. He was shut down. He was everything you wanted in a defenseman. And I remember having this conversation with my family, and when after they gave McDonough the C, I didn't know if he was going to be able to handle it as far as the pressure of being a captain in New York.
Right.
One of the most prestigious hockey teams in the league.
An original 6 team.
And I think that's living up to expectations. I think it's living up to my word. I think maybe he just cracked under the pressure or what, but it's
something. It started to fall apart, and he didn't know what to do.
Yeah, he didn't. He didn't know how to save himself.
No,
and he didn't want his team crumbling down around him. But that's exactly what happened.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but I mean, this is what happens throughout players' careers. Not everybody could be superstars, and not everybody could make it. It's just, I mean, I'm sure it's frustrating, just as frustrating for you as it is for me, is to see what this team was capable of.
Yep.
And not even know what in the world is about to happen and throughout the next few weeks.
Yeah,
months.
we don't know who's going to be on this team at the end of the year, which is probably the scariest part. Because we don't know who's going to stay, who's going to go, who's going to be coming. I'm
oddly looking forward to it because
I am too. Rebuilds intrigue me
because I want to see what we get for what we move. That's
exactly.
I think that's the more I'm thinking about it is because let's face it, we can move anybody other than the names that we mentioned already, our youth. As long as
Zibanejad can't go either.
Zibanejad, Booch, and Shea, I think.
Kreider.
Lethierry and
Kreider might be able to go. Kreider could go for the right price. I will say that.
His price, we don't even know what his price is now that he's not even playing.
No, we don't.
Which that definitely hurts.
All right.
Unfortunate, but I mean, still.
Yep. Well, that's the Rangers for you. We never know what's going on with them. But they actually, I respect that they had that open letter to the fans saying,
well, yeah,
it's time to rebuild.
Yeah, they definitely needed to let the fans know what they're doing because I think we've been in the dark a little too long, and with the way this team has been playing, losing, 6 out of the last 7 games?
They have 3
of the
regulation
20,
games. I'm sorry, they have 3 regulation wins
in the
last 20 games.
I mean, that's
unacceptable. That's not a playoff team.
It's not a playoff team at all.
All right. Well, the NBA today was the deadline, wasn't it?
I guess, and I don't know when I don't know in what world the deadline comes before the All-Star break, but yes, I believe it was, and there were a lot.
There was a lot going on. Nick, I see you have it open. Why don't you just read off some of the moves that were made, because it was I feel like it was one of the busiest NBA trade deadlines in recent memory.
Yeah, I think it was too. And
so many moving parts, so many people going to new cities.
Yeah.
The biggest one, obviously, is Isaiah Thomas. Did he officially get traded?
Yeah, I think it is official.
Because I know it was reported that he was going to possibly be going to the Lakers, but it's still, pieces are still falling into place as we speak. Like there's still stuff going on that hasn't been finalized, that people are trying to figure out exactly what went where, who went where, for what compensation.
Right.
So I think Isaiah Thomas went to the Lakers.
They did. And I don't know. I think they gave up far too much for what they got back. Isaiah Thomas is one of the elite point guards in the league, in my opinion. Channing Frye, a decent backup big man, okay. And the third piece of this trade, a first-round draft pick of 2018.
Whose first-round draft pick?
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
To the Lakers?
To the Lakers.
And what did they get in return?
Jordan Clarkson.
Okay.
I believe he's in his second year as a shooting guard.
The Lakers had nothing that was worth a first-round pick.
Right. And the second part of the trade was Larry Nance Jr. going to competing in the dunk contest this year.
Right.
Those names do not warrant Isaiah Thomas,
and
Channing Frye, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, I completely agree that the Cavaliers got hosed on that one.
I don't know what the deal was.
It's Cleveland. I mean, it's Cleveland.
The only thing I can think of in this deal was that if they anticipate LeBron James leaving after this season, who knows? Likely. They got their youth back as opposed to a rebuild, a completely clear everything away and rebuild from scratch. They got the youth in Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. too.
Don't forget, they still have the Nets first-round pick,
right?
They are not allowed to trade anymore.
Right.
You have to remember that they are now not allowed to trade that. Dwayne Wade went to Miami,
back home to Miami,
and that was the 3-team trade.
No, that was straight up.
That was straight up.
They got a heavily protected second-round draft pick in 2020.
Yeah, they got a second-round draft pick or something.
So I don't know what the heavily. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it is.
And I tell you what, I don't care what the relationship between LeBron James and Dwayne Wade is. The team came out and said that they consulted with LeBron James before making this move. And my question to that is, why?
Why? Yeah.
LeBron James is not.
He's a player.
Is not the general manager of this team. He should not be dictating what happens. I get it. He's probably top
LeBron James.
He's top 3, arguably top 2 best players to ever lace up a pair of basketball shoes.
Arguably the greatest.
Right. Arguably the greatest, sure. But he's still a player. They didn't consult with Michael Jordan when he wanted to make moves, other than who they got for the Olympic team. That's the reason Isaiah Thomas Sr. did not make the Olympic team, was because Jordan didn't want that. But I feel like that's different. That's an Olympic team.
Yes, that's Olympics. That's not
a team in what, fourth place now, battling for a championship, battling for playoff hopes.
Right.
I think that's a little ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, Dwayne Wade did go there, and I guess from there
back to Miami. Good for him.
Yeah, good. And
I'm sure he likes being back in Miami.
He sure does. And honestly, I think it's crazy that LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are the same age, because one is miles better in their career right now than the other. Because I love Dwayne Wade as a player.
I do too.
What a guy, class act, everything. But I think this was a move that might be able to signal a retirement in the near future. And
for Dwayne Wade,
I think
I could see him retiring.
He really hasn't been much since he since he went to Cleveland. The year before that, when he was in Chicago, and his last year in Miami,
he was okay.
He was decent. He was very okay player. He wasn't a Dwayne Wade caliber potential. What he is, but I think that's going to serve maybe as a retirement. And also, this is a man who also had injury problems with his knees. I mean, knees are we've seen his knees in the NBA, no joke. If you have a problem with your knees, it's going to hinder your. It's going to take a few years off your career.
What other moves? I know.
I got him from
what's
the
his
top
name?
here. If you want to just read them off.
Yeah, go for it. Just read them off.
Well, how about Elfrid Payton from the Orlando Magic to the Phoenix Suns?
Okay.
What did they get? A second-round pick.
Wow.
Which is actually Memphis' second-round pick.
How's Memphis doing this year? They're not good.
Well, Memphis is not doing good, but that must have been a prior trade.
Yeah.
Because it was the pick that they're giving them is the pick they got from Memphis, which probably happened in a prior deal.
All right, so that's two no-name teams trying to rebuild still. So
I'm still surprised that Elfrid Payton only went for a second-round pick. I feel like that's a steal. Elfrid Payton is, again, he's an established point guard in the league. He's not bad. He's really not. He's probably top 15.
You got to see. You got to think about where he is, the record of the team that he's on.
Well, yeah.
What are his averages looking like this year? I have no idea.
They're not bad. I mean, I could pull them up real quick, but they're really not bad. I got them in the Yahoo page, but I mean, again, a second-round pick is not.
He's averaging 13 points. He's averaging 4 rebounds and 6 assists. So not terrible, but not great. I'd say, yeah, that warrants a second-round pick. No players, okay. So in his last 3 games, he had 10 points, 10 points, and 14 points. Didn't make a three-pointer in all 3 of those games. Had a combined 8 rebounds in those games, but then he had 8, 7, and 4 assists in those games. So he can move the ball. He's a solid guy, I will say. The numbers say he's solid, but yeah, I would. If I was the GM of the Suns, I would not be giving up anything more than a second-round pick for him.
Fair.
What else?
Fair. How about the Knicks were involved with a 3-team deal?
Oh yeah, Willie.
Not even actually. Willie was.
Yesterday. That was yesterday.
Emmanuel Mudiay.
Okay.
They get and a future second-round pick. The Denver Nuggets get Devin Harris and a second-round pick from the Knicks, and the Dallas Mavericks get Doug McDermott.
Really?
The Knicks moved Doug McDermott.
Oh man,
kind of surprised.
What his radio is gone.
Yeah, what his radio is gone.
That's sad.
Here's more news from Cleveland. Derrick Rose also gone.
Oh yes, that's who I wanted to say.
And
then he got released.
Yes,
he's getting released.
This was the bigger move, I think, for Cleveland. Actually, I can't even say that because now they were involved with a 3-team deal between the Sacramento Kings and the Utah Jazz.
Right.
2 more teams that are kind of relevant this year. The Cavaliers received George Hill, Good.
Right.
And Rodney Hood.
Good.
Good. The Kings receive Iman Shumpert from Cleveland
Wow.
and Joe Johnson from Utah,
Wow.
who is also going to be waived after this deal takes place.
Right.
Also, a Miami 2020 second-round pick. The Kings. Not bad. For only losing George Hill. Not bad. Not bad by any means. And the Utah Jazz received Derrick Rose, who will also be waived. And
the Timberwolves have interest in Rose, I believe.
Not sure why.
I don't either.
And Jay Crowder also went to Utah.
Crowder, right.
Was a nice move.
Yes.
Jay Crowder is good for Utah. But again, now they're losing. So put it this way. The Cleveland Cavaliers
They're rebuilding.
Lost Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, a first-round pick.
Jay Crowder.
Iman Shumpert, Jay Crowder, Derrick Rose, and a 2020 second-round pick that they got from Miami. Wow. And gained Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., George Hill.
George Hill used to be good on Indiana, right?
Indiana. He was
on
Indiana.
with Paul George.
Yeah, and Solomon Hill, actually.
I hated those two. Oh, my God. They were so good.
Yeah, they were. And Rodney Hood. They got 4 players.
They
and
overhauled
lost 10?
it. They blew it up.
Is this the rebuild that LeBron James wanted?
I don't think you consult LeBron James. I think the Cavaliers, if they are smart, they're preparing for life after LeBron right now. Yeah. And if he comes back, good. Great. We got LeBron James still. We don't have to replace him. But they are, I think they're trying to position themselves to be competitive in the future.
Right.
Which is smart.
Yeah.
It's a business. You got to remember, it's a business. Who cares what LeBron James wants? Do what's best for your business.
Right. I agree. And other than that, I mean, there weren't really any standout deals after this. James Ennis went to the Pistons for Bryce Johnson and a second-round pick.
No big names?
Not really. The Heat got Luke Babbitt for Carl White.
Okay.
Wasn't much. Sheldon Mack to the Hawks, who's going to be waived anyway for a protected second-round pick in cash. The Washington Wizards. I mean, this was okay. Point guard depth for the Detroit Pistons is they received Jameer Nelson, veteran point guard.
Nice.
So, I mean, that's okay for Willie Reed, of all people.
Wow.
Interesting. This was the deal you meant happened yesterday with the Knicks. Willie Hernan Gomez to the Charlotte Hornets for Johnny O'Brien, a 2020 second-round pick and a 2021 second-round pick. Interesting. Tyler Zeller and Rashad Vaughn switch teams. That's the Bucks and the Nets. And also a second-round pick was involved in that. The Pelicans made a signing for Jahlil Okafor to a 10-day contract. He was on the team for 10 days, and this was February 3rd, so we're getting there. We're halfway through his deal. I wonder what happens. And I think the steal also, Mirotic went to New Orleans, which was a great deal. But I think the steal of the trade deadline that didn't even happen today, it happened later on last week, was Greg Monroe signed with the Boston Celtics. Okay. And I think that was probably the best deal that any NBA team could have made.
All right. So before we sign off here, who won the trade deadline in the NBA?
Who won the trade deadline of the NBA? Well, I'll tell you what, the Cleveland Cavaliers were probably the most active.
They were definitely the most active team. I don't know if they won or lost, though. That's something that we're going to have to wait to see.
I think the Los Angeles Lakers did.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas now, with no pressure of superstardom, of anything, Celtics 2.0 of last season. He could go back, he could go on to the Lakers, and he could be whatever player he wants. And don't be surprised if the likes of Paul George and, yes, LeBron James joins him in 2018 and 2019.
Who's the center for the Pelicans?
Marcus Cousins?
Yeah, I hear his name being thrown around too.
I'm surprised he wasn't.
Especially to Los Angeles.
I'm very surprised he wasn't moved today. Unless there's baseball waiver wire type of deals that still have to be made.
Unless they're planning on re-signing him.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I hear his name he's a free agent, as is Anthony
Big free
Davis.
agent class.
Yes, as there
Very
was last
big.
year. There always is. Oh, it's 1 year deals just for super teams to happen. I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But hey, that's out of my reach. But that is the world.
That is it. Nothing on
World of
baseball
sports.
except for the Yankees getting Russell Wilson. Awesome. We now have the best
Actually,
quarterback.
I just got a notification, but I exited out
Oh, that stinks.
too quick about the Toronto Blue Jays. They got somebody. So I kind of want to see who they got, but I might have I don't know if I can get it back.
All right. Well,
try.
I'll start to
We can
sign us off, and
Yeah.
if you end up seeing that, just jump on in and let us know. But that is going to be the end of today's episode, Season 1, Episode 1. We're going to dub it unofficially. Any closing remarks, Nick?
No, I could close out on baseball. I don't know what in the world is going on this frozen free agency. Is that they're having a showcase at the beginning of March. I don't really know what's going on.
Teams
Very
don't want to
weird.
pay for the lesser free agents.
Very strange.
seems.
It's like it's the free agents going at other teams, and there are some like grade A names still out there in free agency.
that just haven't gotten offered.
I mean, just to the closing remarks. I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but I mean, J.D. Martinez, Jake Arrieta, Eric Hosmer, Yu Darvish, Mike Moustakas, Alex Cobb, Greg Holland, Eduardo Nunez, and Lance Lynn. All names that 100% deserve to be
Yep.
on a roster at the start of the 2018 season. And
All right.
that's my closing remark.
That's your closing remark.
That's my closing remark.
My closing remark, I'm going to say...
Shed a tear
I'm
for
gonna
all
say
my
this.
Ranger fans.
I was about to. I'm going to say the Rangers should stop worrying about their record this year. Stop worrying about this year in general. Start rebuilding this team. Get a new coach. Change the culture. Do something. Figure it out. Honestly. But no, my closing remark is going to say if this rebuild goes correctly, Rangers will be competitive again in the near future. And I hope that's what happens. Can't wait for Elias Anderson and Filipino next year. And that's my closing remark. So, for Nick Falato, who's sick, still hoping that he feels better.
Feel better, Nick.
Feel better, Nick. Shout out. For Nick DiCostanzo, I am Joe Berg saying goodbye, and we will see you next week.